station, not getting much incense, not much to actually salvage. We see the infantry section has been equipped with rifle grenades. Rifle grenades are quite nice, quite useful for infantry out in the open and in cover, plus they can be used to provide smoke cover. And we also see a Kampfgruppe company going up for Gulcasa and the Panzer upgrade and the Panzer command upgrade as well, which could certainly also mean he's trying to get Panthers quite quickly, since you need those alongside the Panzer support command upgrade. And then you need to make a final upgrade. Oh! We see Overwatch fire being used, airburst shells blowing up around the German positions. Gulcasa's troops barely making out of there, and we see further artillery raining in. Quite horrific, a lot of artillery just raining in over this space, and further airburst shells threatening to tear apart entire infantry teams. The British having complete lockdown on this base, and butterfly bombs trying to move in and counter the positions of the Germans. Trouble is, butterfly bombs are not actually really bombs, they're more of sort of mines, and should be used to mine areas before enemy arrives, otherwise they'll just spot them and knock them out, I'm afraid. And we see the Panzer support command wrecked by Piat and artillery fire. The British now moving in, and the Germans will have to try and force the British back before they knock out the headquarters. And we see the Panther upgrade ready, allowing a Panther battle group to be called in for Kampfgruppe Gulcasa. Fox Battalion once more seizing the victory point by that dashing and daring captain quickly retreating, since he has no interest in hanging around for any counterfire from the Panzer Elite, or just fortunately appearing once more. We see the Germans making a counter-attack, trying to save the remains of the base, knocking out some British infantry troops. Numerous lieutenants and factions. Currently lieutenant bonuses do stack in a bit unfortunate way, but with the next patch that will actually be nerfed, which will be nice, since there will mean less blocking from the British. One infantry section still holding out, and we see Overwatch artillery knocking out one of its own lieutenants. Quite unfortunate for the British, but quite lucky for Gulcasa, since that forces a complete rout on the British troops, as one lieutenant is still hanging around apparently, and perhaps not having gotten the message it's time to retreat, or possibly trying to call in artillery. I'm not entirely sure. Unless he gets up and to late another lieutenant down, certainly quite a loss and waste of men for the British. And we see the Commonwealth command tank hanging around, not really doing anything though, blaming with radio equipment. And we see another Commonwealth, third Commonwealth this match so far. Panzer Grenadiers unfortunately moving down to protect the central victory point, the one which so much fighting occurs over, since either side can really only protect that, since the other one is too far away for the most part, or too well defended by infantry and other sorts of nasty things. Now we see the British attack for the center once more going off. No artillery support having been set up, it seems, and we see the British armor making a dash for the Panzer Grenadiers. I thought for a moment they might go for the headquarters, but they did not, instead going right for the infantry, trying to crush down some. Command tank making a bit of a foolhardy move, moving right in among the Panzer Grenadiers, and could risk being knocked out by anti-tank grenade. And we see the Panther battle group on the field having been called in to support Kampfgruppe Gulcasa, since they lack some anti-tank assets of the heavy kind. And we see artillery raining right in front of the headquarters. It's something known for some players to do when you see a retreat: firing artillery on the enemy base, and you'll hit all the retreating troops, and the Panzer Elite troops have paid dearly for that. A lot of casualties, one team down and the others are almost completely depleted. We see the Panzers driving off, the Commonwealth doing a lot of damage. Commonwealth most likely not going to make it out of there alive, although the Piats do provide cover, and it barely makes away, while the Panzers themselves are forced to withdraw. A bit of a lull in the fighting, as Panzer Elite troops are reinforcing and trying perhaps to repair the Panthers. No, moving out once more, it seems, having decided they have waited enough. and must make the attack, all else is lost. The situation in the British base is rather quiet. Casualty clearing station not really getting anything, it seems, and Cromwell's receiving repairs while the priest is still on overwatch, or just watching over, ready to fire arm some further artillery shells, although Gulcasa has certainly been denied use of most of his space, since in here he'll just be hit with overwatch artillery shells, air bursting and tearing things apart, which airburst shells are quite good at, but no, won't do so much against armor. Infantry section seizing the administrator building once more and firing rifle shells, and we see howitzer shells running in on the position, forcing a retreat from the Panzer Grenadiers and stopping the seizure of the victory point. Panthers hanging back, intent on not really doing anything, it seems, for the moment. Howitzer shells just raining in on that victory point, while the infantry section is forced to pull back under threat of heavy fire from the Fallschirmjäger and Panzer Grenadiers. And the priest pulling back for some reason, perhaps trying to get a better angle on the German position so he can fire right into them, perhaps. Not entirely sure. The Kampfgruppe Gulcasa is not really doing a lot at the moment, lacking manpower, but getting now a mortar half-track, while the rest of Gulcasa's infantry are hanging on by a threat, suffering heavy artillery fire, constant artillery fire in fact, and we see now a Firefly out for the British, certainly going to be effective against the Panthers alongside the Cromwell. Casualty clearing station not having caught one up in some time, it seems. Now the Panthers are moving out alongside the mortar half-track, ready to bombard the British positions, provide some counterfire of the lighter kind, perhaps. Cromwell command tank forced to pull back as the Panthers are opening fire. First Panther taking a direct hit from the Sherman Firefly and a rear hit almost from this Firefly once more. Really going to have to get out of there before it is completely knocked out. The Firefly doing quite a lot of damage and having a lot of penetration on tanks of any sort, and certainly able to deal with Panzers from a much longer range, but we see Pencil Panzernecker support going in, doing a lot of damage to the Sherman Firefly, and the Cromwell will have to make it out of there quickly before it becomes another target for the Henschel strafing runners or whatever. I can't exactly remember what type of plane it is, but certainly quite useful, and of course one of the few times the Luftwaffe actually provides support, it seems, during this part of the battle, or at least in the entire of the 1944 and 1945 battle, since the Luftwaffe by then wasn't really only a shadow of its previous glory during the Blitzkrieg of 1940. Anyways, no more of those history lessons, at least for now. Fallschirmjäger holding the ground using the British cover. No, it was actually one plate down by his Luftwaffe field infantry, I forgot, sorry. But dealing with the infantry section, who are now using one of their wrecked Bren carriers for support, opening fire on the Fallschirmjäger, who have seemingly lost something. Or perhaps not, but a Bren light machine gun nonetheless lies at their feet. And seems like the pre-self-propelled artillery pieces once more opening fire, hitting directly at the mortar half-track, and the Panzer Grenadiers were trying to repair one Panther, but are forced to retreat since artillery is nothing to mess with, although the mortar half-track is still there. Interesting. Numerous sappers conducting repairs on the Cromwell command tank. Of course the Firefly is not there to be seen, but we see a replacement Firefly moving out, and Gulcasa is once more stacking up on manpower, possibly going for another Panther battle group. Not a lot of infantry left, but he is holding on to the central victory point. Cromwell moving out, taking fire from the Panther, And we also see the Firefly moving in. The Cromwell command tank gave it an increased line of sight and range, I do believe, and increased reload. But once more, Henschel strafing run to the rescue. Luftwaffe saving the day once more, knocking out another Firefly, much to the amazement of everyone, including the German troops. And we see the Cromwell once more pulling back to a more secure position. Looks like someone has suffered a bit of damage, since now the British are repairing, or possibly even over-repairing, since that's an ability British sappers with the repair kit can do. Over-repairing means that they'll actually improve the health of the unit to a certain degree, meaning it'll be a tougher unit than before. So that can certainly be used if you're planning on some sort of assault. Then you can possibly try and over-repair the unit so it'll actually be able to withstand more damage. Although once you mind, there are different levels of how much it can be done on different units. Light tanks, for example, won't get as much out of it as, for example, a Cromwell tank or possibly even a Churchill tank. So that's something to be remembered. Panther opening fire on the Cromwell. Second Panther perhaps moving in to support. No, it seems not. Should consider it though. There you go. Moving in to support the Cromwell. We see infantry moving in to deal with the Panthers. Piats flying. Not hitting though, much to the delight of the Panther crews, I suspect. Veterancy 2 up for the Panther, meaning it will get a free MG42 upgrade alongside its other defensive and offensive veterancy bonuses. Artillery shells flying in on the Panther positions, forcing them to pull out from the center, leaving it to the British, who can now secure the central victory point in peace and quiet. And we see a second priest being moved into the field and is helping with further artillery support. Certainly not looking good for Gulcasa's Kampfgruppe, which is in dire straits. And we see a martyr. In fact, we see two martyrs on the way to possibly help against tanks, and they are of course good against emplacements, although at although at this moment I might recommend Panthers or something else like infantry to help with this. Martyrs perhaps not being that effective again at this stage of the battle, in particular not with all this artillery raining in on them. Cromwell watching over the central victory point, where the sappers aren't really keen on taking the point, it seems. Panthers trading blows with the Cromwell alongside the Martyr now as well. Cromwell forced to retreat, since it's not really going to end up being knocked out quickly if it continues being there. Medic moving out, pulling back some wounded British troops to being reconstituted into a new infantry section. Germans moving out to repair the Panthers, who are by now quite